Yeah, hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Wami Elisa, your math guy. So today we are going to look at quadratic equations, and in the quadratic equations we are going to look at the factorization method, the quadratic formula, completing squares, and the graph method. And all these methods, they solve the quadratic equations. So in factorization method, suppose we are being given this as a question and we want to use the factorization method. We shall look at the term before x, and that is a 5. The term which has no value of x attached to it, it is a 6. So we think of two numbers. When you add them, that you should get a 5, and when you multiply them, you should get a 6. So those two numbers, you can think of any numbers. Suppose we say a 4 and a 1. A 4 and a 1. When I add them, I get a 5. But when I multiply them, I can't get a 6. So you can think of other numbers, maybe a 0 and a 5. Adding them, I get a 5. Multiplying them, I can't get a 6. So a 2 and a 3. Adding them gives a 5. Multiplying them gives a 6. So this is the correct pair of numbers we should use. So this is how we shall use these numbers. We shall get our x squared plus, now this 5x shall be broken down into 2 using these numbers. So 5x shall be 2x plus 3x. Then we continue with our plus 6 all equal to 0. Then after that, we shall look at this expression on the left in terms of two groups, this one and this one. So we shall look for what's common in this group, and that's x. So we pull out that x. Here we remain with 1x, and here we remain with a 2, because an x is pulled out. Plus, what's common in this group is a 3. Inside this 6 there is a 3. We look at a 6 as a 3 times a 2. So in a 6 there is a 3. So in both numbers, in both quantities, there is a 3. So we pull it out. Here remains an x, and here remains a 2, all equal to a 0. Now in this big group and in this one, there is an x plus 2 common. So we pull it out in this and in that. So what remains here and there after pulling out an x plus 2 is x plus a 3, all equal to a 0. So what is left is saying that our x, either the first bracket x plus 2 is a 0, implying that our x shall be negative 2, or our x plus 3, our second bracket, is equal to a 0, implying that our x is a negative 3. And we conclude that therefore our x is a negative 2, and our x is also a negative 3. Conclude, that's it. Now this is the quadratic formula, and all you have to do is to be able to remember this every time you have to use the quadratic formula. And we need to spot out our a, b, and a c. So in such a quadratic equation, our a, it is the coefficient of x squared, so that is a 2. Our b is the coefficient of x, so that's a negative 2. And our c is the constant term, which is a negative 12. Always know that a number or a quantity is defined by the sign which comes before it. That's why we are calling a b a negative 2 and a c a negative 12. So then we shall say from the quadratic formula, we can rewrite it very fast. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. From that, our x shall be negative b. Then what's b? B itself is a negative 2. So plus or minus b squared, that's negative 2 squared because it's our b, minus 4 times all into a. A is a 2, and our c is a negative 12, all divided by 2 into our a is 2. Therefore, x shall be minus a negative, so that becomes a positive 2 plus or minus, that is a 4. This is a plus. If we multiply very well there, 8 times 2 times 4 is 8, then times 12, that's a 96, all divided by 4. So our x shall be 2 plus or minus square root of 100 all over 4, which shall become x is equal to plus or minus 10 all over 4. So either x is equal to 2 when we take a plus, 2 plus a 10 over 4, which shall be a 3, or our x is a 2 when we take a minus, minus 10 over 4, which shall become a negative 2. So therefore our x is a 3 and our x is a negative 2. So that's it. So we are going to look at completing squares, but before, I want us to first look at the common mistakes which most learners do. So you can find such an easy question. Find the value of x in such a question. But most learners will come and say that this is x squared equal to a 4. The 4 will go to the right and it will change its sign. So let me even rewrite this very step. So the only task left is to get x, and we are having x squared. Therefore we take the square root. And the mistake is forgetting to put a plus or minus at this very step where you are putting the square roots. So you should put the plus or minus at this very stage, and therefore our x shall become plus or minus the square root over 4, which is known as a 2. Therefore either x is a 2 or our x is a negative 2. So that is how it is supposed to be done. Okay, now we are going to look at completing squares. And suppose we are given this as a question. So what you should make sure is that the coefficient of x squared should be a 1. If it is a 1, we proceed as we are going to see. If it is not, we first make sure that it is by dividing all through by 2, by that coefficient there. Divide all through by 2. So this becomes x squared plus a 7x plus a 10 equal to a 0. Then we look for, after making sure it is a 1, we look for a number which we are calling k, which is a half times the coefficient of x. It is a positive 7 all squared. So our k is a 7 over 2 all squared. So on this very equation where we are, this is an x squared plus a 7x. So after this term having x, we are going to add this term 7 out over 2 all squared, which is a k. And it is going to help us to complete squares. But it wasn't there, so we take it off as well. 7 out of 2 all squared is subtracted off. Then plus a 10 all equal to a 0. Now this is a perfect square. So this is x plus 7 over 2 all squared. If you try to expand this, you will realize that it should give you this. Then minus, this is a 49 out over 4 plus a 10 equal to a 0. Then our x plus 7 out over 2 all squared minus 49 out over 4 plus 10, that's calculator work. So we take them to the right, that's 49 over 4 minus 10. So our x plus 7 out over 2 all squared will be, this is out, of course, out over 1, that will be 9 out over 4. So when we take square roots, let's rewrite it for clear observations. When we take a square root, it is at this very stage that we should put a plus or minus. So this becomes 7, x plus 7 over 2 equal to plus or minus a 3 over 2. Because this square root, its effect goes on a 9 and on a 4. Just like that. So we continue, our x becomes equal to, we take this to the right, it becomes a negative 7 over 2 plus or minus 3 over 2. So either x is, when we take a positive, that is a plus 3 over 2, which will be, if we work out this very well, this shall be a negative 2, that's calculator work. All our x shall be equal to a negative 7 out over 2 when we take a minus a 3 over 2, and that's still calculator work. So this will give us a negative 5. That will give us a negative 5. So therefore our x, we shall conclude that our x is negative 2 and our x is a negative 5. So those will be our answers. This is how we do it. Okay, so at this moment you are going to look at the graphical method, but I remind you to hit the subscription button and the notification button, and don't forget to share this video such that your friends can also learn together with you. So this is how we will use the graphical method to be able to solve the quadratic equation being given. So at this very stage, having a 0, sorry, this is a 2, this is a 2, it is a 2 like that. So having such a quadratic equation with a 0 on the other side, with this term this way, we shall let y be equal to all this term, x squared minus x minus 2. Of course, we need to have a y, because we are talking about graphical method. We need an x and y axis. So after letting our y be this term, it's like we have let, don't forget, it's like we have let y be a 0. It's like we have let y to be a 0. That is something you should not forget. Letting y to be this, it is like we have let y to be a 0, because that will help us where we are coming there. So after doing this, we are going to create points of x and y coordinates, and we shall pick points which are in the center of our number line. We shall use such numbers. So let us suppose we are picking a negative 2, a negative 1, a 0, a 1, and a 2. Let us use those ones. So having picked these numbers, we are going to find the corresponding y coordinates to these x coordinates. It's like we are going to create various points which we are going to use to plot on the graph. So this is our curve. This is the equation of the curve we have gotten. This is the equation which we are going to plot on the graph. So these ones, we just put them there. Then we look for their corresponding y coordinates. So if x is a negative 2, what will y be? This is calculator work, but let's see. Our y shall be, if x is a negative 2, our y shall be a negative 2 squared, then minus x itself is a negative 2, then minus 2. Solving this will give us, here we have a 4, this is plus a 4, then minus a 2, which will give us a 6. So this is a 6. If x is a negative 1, what will our y be? Negative 1 squared minus x itself is a negative 1 minus a 2. This is a 1 plus a 1 and then minus a 2, which is a 0. So this is a 0. If x is a 0, obviously this becomes a negative 2. If y is a 1, sorry, if x is a 0 is a 1, what is y? Y is x is a 1 squared minus 1 minus 2. So y shall be, that is a 1 minus a 1 minus a 2, which is equal to a negative 2. So this is a negative 2. And if x is a 2, what will our y be? Our y shall be 2 squared minus a 2 minus a 2. So this shall be a 4 minus a 2 minus a 2, which is a 0. So we are going to use these as points. It's like our points. Our points are negative 2, 6, negative 1, 0, 0, negative 2, 1, negative 2, 2 and a 0. So we shall come at our x and y axis. Of course, this is our x-axis. X-axis. This is our y-axis. So we have a 6 at a y, so we need a 6 as a y value, as a maximum y value somewhere there. Call that a 4, a 2, a 0, negative 2, negative 4. So let us call this a 2 as well, a 4, 6, negative 2, the negative 4. So we are going to plot all these points, negative 2 at x and a 6. So this point is around here. That point is around there. Negative 2 at x and a 6 at y. Negative 1 and a 0. Negative 1 in the middle of a negative 2 and a 0. So negative 1 and a 0 and a 0. So this point is here on our x-axis. Another one is a 0 and a negative 2. So the point is here. 1 around here in the middle, that's for x1, and a negative 2. That means this point as on the same level as this one, because it is also negative 2. Then a 2 and a 0. 2 and a 0. So we can plot this curve using our free hands, but you can put a ruler aside for you to be somehow smart. So we can plot this curve very well. So that is our curve. So that is our curve. We can even name our curve. We can name it very well. This is y equal to x squared minus x minus 2. That's the curve. Now for us to get our values of x, remember this question requires us to get values of x. We shall look for where this curve is cutting the x-axis. So this curve is cutting the x-axis at this point and this one. So where it is cutting the x-axis, those are the x values. which satisfy this answer. Remember the x-axis, y is a 0. And on our starting point, I told you that letting this to be a y, which was a 0, it's like we have let y to be a 0. That's why this condition reminds us that where this curve cuts the x-axis, it is of course where y is a 0. So our x is a -1, this point, the value of x there, and the value of x here is a 2. So another value of x is a 2, or a +2. So those are our answers. X is a -1 and +2. Thank you for watching our video. May God bless you.